Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to share with you my thoughts about Land 1.5, the graphical interface, the user interface. The eye candy from the recent town hall to me looks great, and I'm very hopeful about this. But then we get into other things from the town hall, such as GLG and the release and launch of that. And in my opinion, this thing looks like a dud, both visually as well as game mechanics. And so then that sparks a conversation about how you don't need to have amazing looks, but of course it helps. And I feel as though if you even just get the mechanics right, like I think Splinterlands originally when it launched, it was lacking a lot of beauty, but it had the mechanic of an amazing auto brawler that I enjoyed, the development, the recruitment of the right deck. And so, and then even if we look at old 8-bit Nintendo games, they had a certain mechanic and gameplay that was enticing. That's what we need. The superficial beautification of it can come later as long as the game mechanic's right. I feel GLG doesn't offer either of that though. Let me know in the comments below if you disagree. We're going to talk about all that and more games within the blockchain. So stick around if that sounds interesting. Before we go further though, go to splintercoach.com, which for $5 a month will track your personalized battle history. The data is entertaining to look at, but it will help you get better. When you start to see things like, Grandmaster Wraith wins most of his battles and plays quite a few of my battles, but then Mother Kala plays not an inconsequential number and yet gets slapped around. These rare summoners, some of them are particularly bad, I would say. Eastwood from the green team is another example. Tarsa really struggles for that at that rare level. Mother Kala struggling at 23 and 36. Is there something discernible here? You look at Time Mage. Time Mage is a strong card, but at 3 and 9, this starts to show me that there's a bit of a magic play mixed with an archery play, mixed with a melee play. And I think maybe if I was doing more focus fire on one attack approach, maybe that would be beneficial for my Mother Kala. But this data might point me in a direction of improvement, and it has in the past with other summoners. And so I hope you'll check it out. Splintercoach.com, $5 a month. It has helped me, and I'm enjoying it. So check it out. Have an amazing day, guys. Did you see the town hall?
I didn't see it. I generally watch someone's recaps, after sounds recaps generally.
Yeah.
I saw the announcement under eye candy, and it looks pretty promising.
I think it looks. I'm gonna try and pull it up here. Here it is. What I'm starting to do is I'll click on Splinterlands in Hive and I'll go through and I'll look at some of the top and recent posts, because it's an interesting actual sample. I've got some cool material here that if we get through it all, I don't know, we'll see, but it's an interesting sort of place to start the conversation for an event like this. But yeah, I watched the live, I watched the town hall. I thought it was interesting. There was several little things that grabbed me, but what I thought, the two things I thought were most exciting, the three things I thought were most exciting were the eye candy around land, and I've got some of it on my screen here. And just even looking at, for instance, how it shows the different workers on the site, on the property, and you can add more, and you can titles and artifacts. It actually looks like a cool game to me. It doesn't look like rough. It doesn't look, now it's just a picture right now, mind you, but I'm actually interested to see this. I like the thematically, color wise, it looks Splinterlands, and yet it looks clear and interesting, and I'm excited to get into my different, and it looks like there's build, worksite, investigate. You can this looks to me like an economy game with more and more visual representations. I think our game already is. I think Splinterlands is a game of economy. You have to look at how much SPS you have from a staking perspective so that you can control your earnings. Then when you get that, you have to probably extract some of your ongoing earnings to manage rentals or new card acquisitions. You have to choose one card over another because the cost versus reward of that asset. Summoners, which splinters are you focusing on? All of this, it feels as though this game is simple, but there's a deep water of there's deep waters of the economy within the game that is itself a game. What's that?
It's like an iceberg where you just see the tip, and then there's so much more below it once you start digging underneath.
That's right. Yep. And I think, to me, when I look at these pictures, what I'm seeing is that the economy, because the land is a new game with a new type of economy. There's farmers, there's buildings, there's DEC allocation, there's, do you get these resources, or do you buy certain resources, or do you just sell, or do you this is a whole new game with a whole new economy. But this economy has a visual representation, unlike Splinterlands. In all that stuff I talked about, like how much SPS you have, what cards you buy. Some of it's just knowledge. Like, I'm holding on to an understanding of the fact that it's cheaper to buy a Thaddeus Brood than it is to buy a Kelia. Kelia is almost double the price of Thaddeus Brood. And so then, which makes more sense? That's actually an economy choice. That's part of the game of Splinterlands. But it's just, I know that. I don't see that in a visual way. I just know it. But here they've actually got space for, your monsters are going to go here. It's starting to make it more visual, like more of a UI for it, which I think helps make it more of an actual game. When people are critical of Splinterlands, they often say things like the game is boring. And what they mean is the auto brawler doesn't satisfy them. And I think there's so much more there. This, to me, with Land 1.5 Eye Candy, is showing me that they are trying to create a new way of looking at all of this, so that you can see that game as opposed to just feel it once you get in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I really like the aesthetics of the land they have so far. A lot more impressive than the GLG that I saw.
Yeah, that was a bit. Oh man, I'm loath to be harsh on it, but I think it looks bad. I was very under impressed. So yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because this to me is an example of it doing well, of sort of game design looking great, the aesthetics being on point, and them understanding what is the core and joy of it, and then showing that, giving a user interface that depicts it. But then you look at Genesis City goals, and I don't think it's a winner at all. I mean, okay, it's brand new. There's lots of room for growth. So grain of salt, but man, and I don't want to click on these videos, but there's a video over here by Eddie Spino, and I watched this earlier. It's like a 1 minute, and it looks so buggy. Now, probably it was just an early bug, but it was like the game ended up being 13-11 or something like that. And it was just like goal, because some bug was happening. And then I watched a Bulldog video, or a clip from it, which Eddie Spino threw on this blog post. And you see Bulldog win his first match, but it just looks so choppy. Like on my screen, you can see a still image of one of the quote unquote goals, but really the players stay in this pretty stationary sort of display. And I guess they can move a little bit, but then they have to either pass, shoot, or dribble. And I guess, and you got percentage chances of success. And it seemed like it was maybe a 3-second delay between actions. And so then sometimes you're gonna go to dribble, and you're gonna turn it over, and then your opponent's gonna have 3 seconds to choose what they do. It looks really, really basic in my mind. And I saw some comments from the chat saying similar. King said GLG is definitely not a great look for the overall company. I think the team should place their sole focus on SPL. They already have a great game, and diverging their focus from there isn't efficient, in my opinion. And then Brandon said, yes, GLG does look bad, clunky, unclear why things happened, i.e. why pass is blocked, or percent chance changes throughout the match. Yeah, even with that, I did open about 100 packs trying to get better cards. That point is where I want to speak to, and I want to hear your thoughts, Skeeter. Brandon says, it looks clunky, and King says it doesn't look great. But Brandon says in the end of his comment, he goes, even still, I opened about 100 packs to try and get better cards. So there's like I think when I saw the video of this thing, I thought the only way this is succeeding is if people see massive gains on their cards, and that sparks in like a FOMO. And to me, that's the only path, because the game quality looked, and I'm not a soccer fan, so take that with a grain of salt, but it looked to me like not a soccer game. It looked like, you know, you could switch this. I said when they talked about this game at Splinterfest, and they didn't tell us much more than this still image that I've got on the screen here. But when they talked about it, I said to one of the people I was with right then there, Jim was with me, and I said to Jim, you know, you could copy and paste. This could be a war game. It could be a, you know, there's nothing truly soccer about this. It's like the word shoot, the word pass, the word dribble. You know, this could be, and so I don't really see how this is going to appeal, because that's been one of the arguments. It's going to appeal to a soccer fan. I don't think so. Any thoughts on any of that I just shared?
Yeah, totally. I think what Brandon said is, well, they'll probably add like the percent chances of blocking and passing and stuff later on. I guess it's early beta, and I've heard from another game developer who said that, like, you know, he didn't want to release his beta out too early because everyone judges the game based on the beta and the first images, like the first impression. And this first impression wasn't too great. And I agree with King Arminius as well that SPL should just be focusing on like Splinterlands. And I think like Aggie and Matt are just, you know, so excited about branching out into other games, but I think that might have been a little early to do so, that maybe we should just focus on Splinterlands for another like year or two and then branch out.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you. Now, I'm okay with things like, I want the Chibi Dino thing to work out, although that sounds like it's got some sort of problems happening I don't fully understand. But if stuff like that can launch where we end up having this service that is marketable, that allows the company to make money outside of just selling packs to us, I think that sort of diversification, even if it is a slight distraction, might be really helpful from a long-term sustainability of Splinterlands, the company. And probably, if it goes well, a strong benefit to Splinterlands asset holders, because there ends up being this interconnected nature for the economies of these games. Perhaps not with Chibi Dinos, but ultimately, even with Chibi Dinos, there's talk of maybe wrapping in, you know, skins that you would buy with the EC, etc. And then in the future, as from my understanding, is Chibi Dinos is essentially like a proof of concept. Like the idea is like, we want to prove that we could do this for them, this company who wanted us to do it. We want to prove we can do it, and then in the future, we'll get to a place where companies know we can do it, and they approach us and we say, sure, but you're going to be wrapped into our economy. And so I am for limiting distractions, but I'm also for a certain amount of allowing a certain amount of distraction, particularly where I think it might have outsized returns. Yeah, this one to me is just a little disappointing. From, like you said, it looks like it's not ready. I don't really know why it's so complicated, like in the sense of, this doesn't look complicated. It doesn't look beautiful. I don't know why it was late and yet it looks this way. And that's probably my tech unsophistication talking. Like I know nothing about this. Maybe it is super hard to do. So I'm not trying to be, needlessly cruel to these guys, but I just thought it looked really underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, if the game looked better and there was more hype about it, I would be more excited. And, for Splinterlands trying to diversify their revenue streams to create a more sustainable company. But, if this is the output of the games right now, I'm not super hyped on it. And I don't think I'm going to be pre-ordering packs for unfinished games going forward for GLG or Soulkeep, because then the secondary market prices were just way cheaper.
Yeah. I mean, this really, really, really looks to me like the first ever video games. Here, I'm going to take away my picture on the screen. No, it's okay. Above my image here on the screen. Like, this is what I think about when I look at this soccer game that we're currently selling. It's like, it's totally underwhelming. I mean, even if it was
exactly.
like, yeah, it's like, and I don't know. I mean, I just saw King Arminius. That might be all we need to say. He goes, as a German, I'm a big football fan, but GLG just doesn't move me at all. I guess it's still a beta testing, so it'll surely improve. But how much can they really improve from the current state? Yeah, we probably need to just sit back and wait. But just, I thought I had to kind of comment, because it is like it was celebrated in the town hall. It's been looked forward to for a while. On the other side, I had one more positive from the town hall, the Soul Keep. I am excited for Soul Keep, and I have seen video of that, and I do think that game looks kind of cartoony, a little bit. It's not super cool. The aesthetic is not super. I wouldn't describe it as the word cool. I would say it's a little bit kind of kiddie looking, but the mechanic seems satisfying. And so I'm definitely in on that. I've got 150 packs or something, and that one's coming soon. Do you have any packs for Soul Keep?
Yeah, I got 100 of those as well. Got 100 for GLG, and I'm super excited for Soul Keep. I really like tower defense games, and just trying to figure out like a good strategy and how to beat the AI in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I am pretty excited for Soul Keep because I'm also personally a fan of like games with cartoony graphics. So I don't really mind, subpar graphics for games if the gameplay is really good. Like I'll still play it. But I know some other people that may not be like that as much. If they're coming from like Marvel Snap or Hearthstone with all these flashy animations and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm personally okay with it too. That's the thing for me. With GLG, I see neither. I see neither a satisfying game mechanic nor a quality visual. But with Soul Keep, I see possibly, in my opinion, like an underwhelming visual aesthetic. But it seems to be a satisfying gaming mechanic. And that's way more important to me. That's the part that, if you get that part right, you can improve the visuals at a later day. Even you can lean into and double down on your aesthetic style, and maybe it's different than what I would, design, but that doesn't mean it's bad. And so I'm actually downright excited for tower defense. I haven't played it. I've seen other people play it. There's only, I think, 25 levels, and the one criticism I heard so far is that there isn't enough levels. But that's fixable
pretty
too.
Standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not all the content that people want. It's like, no crap, because it's a beta.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the full game.
And I saw a comment, a little bit of a digression, but I saw somebody comment on Primal Hoop, and I don't know if I can show this without getting a copyright, so I'm not gonna, but I did buy a dinosaur for Primal Hoop, and I gave it a shot, and I thought it felt like NBA Jam with a cute cartoony skin on it. I'm down with that. I love basketball. It was actually a fun to play game mechanic. It felt very much like a Super Nintendo basketball game, and I'm down with that. But from what I heard, there's problems around the economy or something, and I don't know much. I really don't know anything, I would say, but something's delaying it. So I'm excited for it, but it is fun. I played it.
I mean, I'm pretty happy for Primal Hoops too. Remind me, I should probably get a Chibi Dino as well, just to get my foot in the door. But I'm also concerned about stretching myself too thin with too many play to earn games with you get your 5 daily chests a day. So I'm gonna have to be a little more picky. I can't just sign up for all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. As it stands, I have a hard time playing Splinterlands. I'm gonna play Soul Keep. I'm playing Golem Overlord, and I'm playing SplinterForge. And I can't ever. It's like some days I end up not satisfying my SplinterForge time, or I end up ignoring Golem Overlord a little bit. But I usually I do tune in every day at least, and then maybe I kind of, because I actually find them entertaining enough that I'm willing to commit the time, what little time it takes for me to do what I just did on screen here, to click my team submission and just go ahead and skip reward and see, okay, 1540, that was a little bit underwhelming. Okay, that's it. And away I go. And I maybe spend 20 minutes a day on SplinterForge, and I maybe spend 10 minutes a day on Golem Overlord. But for the possibility of this becoming something, and Golem Overlord is a game where this is an interesting one, because to me it's like, aesthetically I think it looks clean. I've got it showing on my screen here. I think it looks great. They recently released these, you can get these different backdrops, and you can change, and they will give you some sort of bonuses if you get certain ones. This is the sort of thing though superficial makes it look, it has a very how am I trying to, what am I trying to say? It's like, it has an identity to me. And I know that people are critical, where people are critical of a game like this is that there's not much game to it. But I think, again, it's not that there isn't game here. The game is the economy. You just need to understand that when you're playing with zeros and ones, you're making decisions, minor or large, that are impactful for the future production, which then impact future decisions. And that is in a game of economy. But unlike Splinterlands and the new land and what they've done and what they seem to be doing, I think these guys need to do a little bit better job of dramatizing the choices. Like, I don't know, when I update my scavenger golems, maybe Golem Overlord needs to do, like, show a little gif of like robots being created and being sent out into the wastelands to go scavenge, or something of that nature. Maybe the battles,
Exactly.
when you attack someone in this, it says like, my golem is terrorizing their lands. Show me a 5-second, video of my golem like ripping through their city or something. That sort of stuff would go a long way.
Yeah, exactly. Since the gameplay is a little more, I wouldn't call it basic. It's just different. It's just not as interactive as some other games. So I think they really need to supplement it with more flashy animations.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, in middle school, like 15 years ago, I went to a gaming coding camp with Nintendo to see if I like coding, and found out I hated it. But there was this other guy in the class, he played this game with just like the black text box, like the command prompt. And I'm like, why are you playing that? He's like, oh, it's a game. It's like a D&D adventure type game. Like, you go around in quest for like Star Wars or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, huh, that game's not for me. But that's just what I kind of think about for here, where Golem Overlord isn't quite for me, but there's still like an audience for it.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah, I had a friend who played this. I forget what it's called now, but it was like this world. It was this war and this conquest game, and it was on my screen here. It just says command prompt, but this is not. I don't know. This is a command prompt screen, but it looked very much like this, where it was like day, month, day, year, time, and it would say something like grain, and then infantry and population and money, and it was an economy based game where you would grow your army, and all you'd be like, buy Marines or buy tanks, and so you had a screen full of numbers and letters, but the person who I knew would play it for hours. And I'm saying there are communities of people who are down with that kind of thing. Like, it's an economy management game. Then there's really only a question of how much imagination does one need to bring to comprehend what's unfolding before you in zeros and ones. And the best games are going to have an excellent economy and a sort of a mechanic behind it that is nuanced and thoughtful, but be wrapped in a user interface that is going to be beautiful to look at. And it doesn't, and like you said earlier, it doesn't have to be beautiful, but it certainly doesn't hurt if it is. And so that's like, I don't know, I think we're kind of from, we're roughly, I forget your age, Scooter, but you're old enough to know, like, you know, some of the old Super NES games or Sega Genesis or even maybe Nintendo and stuff like this. And, you know, some of those games look terrible, but yet they're classics. So, you know, that it doesn't have to be visually stunning, but of course, if it is, all the better.
Exactly. Like I'm just thinking of like Duck Hunt on the NES, where the graphics were absolute trash and there was just birds flying around. But the gimmick was you get a gun and you shoot the wall to shoot the birds, and that was like insane and like game breaking at the time. And it was like one of my favorite games for me and my friends growing up.
Yeah, me too, man. I loved it. I used to play it. I can still hear the sounds. And when you miss it, when you miss the birds like come and laugh at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you're right. There's not much there, but like, I mean, look at this. The screen was just like this blue. It was just like a blue and green space, but yet it did capture a lot of people. It blew my mind, and it was a lot of fun. And yet it didn't look overwhelming or super impressive. It just was fun to play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the gameplay was great and it was innovative, so it was a success. And I think Splinterlands is pretty innovative too in what they're doing, trying to, you know, give more power to the people. Like I said last time, they're not trying to just put all the profits into themselves or making the DAO. And then there's the third-party market where flippers can make money, or you get a, you know, have a long-term investment and then sell for a profit later with an increasing player base.